welcome to another episode of Wannabe Entrepreneur. I haven't studied business or product design. I study software engineering, but I've been passionate about entrepreneurship and startups and building my own thing for a long time. And because of that, I've been trying a lot of my projects. I've been reading a couple of books. And now, with this journey, with this podcast, I got a chance to interview a lot of other entrepreneurs and learn with them. So I think there are a couple of lessons that I've taken from all of this experience that I've already also validated with other entrepreneurs that I would love to share with you because I think they can be quite valuable. And so let's do that today. Let's go through the life cycle of building a product and ideas and lessons that I've learned. And first of all, there's a lot of people that tell me that they are not creative, that they cannot have ideas. But I really believe that having ideas is something that you can train. And of course, there's like everything, right? There's people that have a bigger intuition towards having ideas. But what you need to do is start looking to the world through entrepreneurs' eyes, which is trying to identify problems in the world and coming up with possible solutions. So how would you solve this problem? And if you start looking to the world with this mentality, then you will end up, seeing problems everywhere and seeing possible solutions everywhere too. And it's actually, at some point, it will be the opposite. You cannot think of new ideas. It's like everything is a possible business opportunity. So if you start actually trying that, you'll see that you have a lot of ideas. And the first thing that I've seen, and I think this is really a mistake from first-time entrepreneurs, that people that are starting, in their entrepreneurial path, they don't want to share their ideas, which is crazy. I understand people say like, yeah, what if someone steals my idea? But when someone comes to me with this mindset, I already know that they had no experience whatsoever building an idea, because the idea, it's really like, I don't know, 1% of what it makes it successful. That implementing the idea, that's what actually, it takes so much effort. And if you are a follower of this podcast, you have seen how hard it is, right? The ups and downs, the marketing, building, having a team. That's what actually, it's super, super hard. The idea, it's really, really just a small percentage of it all. And I mean, you can keep the idea just for yourself, but then there's a lot of cons doing that. Because first of all, if you want to get advice, if you want to get mentorship, if you want to get people helping you or joining your team, I mean, if you don't share your idea, they cannot do that, right? And one day I was speaking with Wolfgang, and he told me that someone approached him and said, like, kind of trying to hire him or motivate him to join this team. And Wolfgang said, okay, what's your idea? And he said, okay, you have to sign an NDA, and then I will tell you the idea. And of course, Wolfgang said, like, I cannot sign an NDA just for that. I mean, it makes no sense. There's so many people sharing ideas with me. If I would sign an NDA with all of them, like, I couldn't, I didn't have time. I would have so many NDAs. Probably I couldn't speak about anything. So really forget about it. If you have an idea, the best thing that you can do is actually share it. And that comes to my next advice, as something that I've learned. Don't start immediately doing the idea. Start speaking about it with your friends and see if the problem that you're solving, if the idea makes any sense. And that's what I do a lot of the times. If I have an idea, I share it with my friends. It also helps to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs and speak with them and see what they think. Most of the times, they will immediately identify a bunch of problems with idea, or maybe they know already about some competitors, and I end up actually discarding most of my initial ideas. And if I do not discard them, so I just keep the idea in the back of my mind. I speak with it with a couple of friends, and if after like, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a month, I still have this idea. Then I start actually thinking about it. And the first thing that I think is like, what problem am I actually solving? Is there an actual problem here? And that's super important, because if there's something that I've learned is that if your idea is not solving a problem, a real problem, then I mean it will not become a successful product. And it's super hard to validate if it's a real problem or not. But what I normally do in the beginning is I go to Reddit, I go to the community. So let's say Change It, for instance, my climate change app. The problem that I'm trying to solve is that there's not enough information for people that want to, adjust their lives towards a more sustainable lifestyle. And for me, that was the case. So it's already great that I'm solving my own problem, because then I become a user as well. But maybe it's only a me problem. So I went on Change It to the subreddits of sustainability, climate change, and I asked about it. I asked, like, is this a problem? Do you also have the same problem as me? Are there any other apps already that you use? And I start doing both a market analysis and seeing if there's actually a problem on it. And it's a great first indicator, because if everyone says, yeah, no, that's not a problem, then probably you're not solving anything. But if people start saying, yeah, this is great, I would love to have such an app, blah blah blah, then this means that this might be a good problem for you to solve. And of course that this doesn't mean that the problem still exists, or it's big enough, or there is a big enough market, because that's another thing that, to be honest, I haven't explored that much, but I know which is super important, which is how big is the market. So how many people potentially could use your app. This is something that I know it's super important, but unfortunately I haven't focused too much on it. Probably I should, and I'll do another episode about it. But so okay, you spoke about it with your friends, you cannot stop thinking about this idea, you validate that probably this is a problem that people won't solve it, and what's the next step? And this really depends on your background. If you are a developer, probably, I mean, you will use always your skills for the next step. So if you are a designer, the best thing you can do is create a mock-up, or create one of those click dummies that you can share. Even though it's not an app, people can kind of see what is the goal of it. If you are a marketeer, you can create surveys, you can share with you start building a community, and then you can actually understand if you're actually solving a problem. If the solution, also this is very important, if your solution is the best solution for the current problem. And of course, if you're a developer, you'll start building your first MVP. And that's what I will be focusing on, because that's my background. I'm a developer. And most of the people I interview, they're also developers. And so what you have to do is, what is the most simple product you can create that already solves a portion of this problem? And don't stress, don't think that you have to build already a huge product, because most likely, if you take, let's say, a year to build a huge solution and a huge product, you release it, and what will happen? It was only you thinking on the idea, right? So probably you failed in most of the features, and you will have to basically redesign the full product. So just come up with the most simple feature you can think of that is already solving the problem, and release it to the world. So, I did an interview with Matthias. It's one of the first interviews, which is the product that he created and actually terminated in only 10 days. And he's the boss on making, quick MVPs. So you should really listen to this interview. But definitely, we changed it. The thing that I did was I created a simple app using React Native and Expo, and the app only had the list with the content, so a couple of actions that you could tick, and by ticking them you could see the CO2, so how much CO2 you'd save by doing such an action. It was super simple. It was simple to the point that Apple didn't want me to release this app in their store, because they said it was too simple for their store. But it was a great way for me to share it on Reddit and share it on Hacker News, share it with my friends. and I start seeing that there was a couple of tracks. There were downloads. So if people are actually downloading your app, it'll kind of validate that there's a problem that you are solving. And that's what happened. I already got a bunch of people downloading it, and I got a lot of feedback. Got a lot of positive feedback, and also a lot of negative feedback. People saying, "Okay, this is not doing enough for me. You could just write a blog post about it." So that's actually the next tip, which is feedback, feedback, feedback. I also did an episode about it. It's one of the first ones. It's called feedback, 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 and you now it's when you start building your product. You start collecting feedback from your users, and you start introducing this feedback in the development of your app. And what I do is I have a Trello board where I gather all this feedback. If there's repeated or duplicated feedback, I just do a +1, and I know that this should be prioritized because there's many people speaking about it. And then I just do cycles of development. I get this feedback and I say, okay, this feedback will be in my next release, and I do it, I release it, and I see what people think about it. And this is my process. I've been doing this for like months, collecting feedback and coming up with new features. And there will be a point when you validate your problem, but then, and this is again my opinion, I'm not sure if it's completely right, you need to see if your solution is solving the problem 100%. And one of the great metrics to see this is retention. Because if you're actually solving a problem and people actually like your product, they won't uninstall it, right? So if they install it, it means that they are interested and that there is a problem. But if they uninstall it right away, it means that your solution is not the best solution for this problem. So that's why I think that then what you should focus on is retention. And that's kind of that's the stage where I am at with Change It. The retention has been growing, but it's still far from ideal. There's a lot of people still removing the app, a lot of things that I can learn and improve, and that's basically the stage there that I'm developing now. One thing that is also very important, and I really believe that you should start thinking about it since the beginning, especially if you are a bootstrapper. So this means that you don't want to get, raise money or anything. You want to build it, you want to keep the app for yourself, and you want to build it with the minimum amount of money possible. Then is to start thinking on how is your app or product going to make money. And I really believe that you should do this from the start. Even if you don't start implementing it from the start, you should already have an idea on how your app or product should make money. Because if you develop something that along the road there's no way to make money with it, then you will have probably to change the product, and then you will have to do 3, 4, 5 steps back. And you can have this as, for instance, the example of Twitter, right? Or a lot of social medias. Twitter only started make money really along the line with advertisement, and a lot of people do not like advertisement, right? So they lost a lot of users because they just came up with this idea of like, now I put advertisement there, and the business model doesn't align, or the monetization doesn't align with the product. So what I did was Change It was, okay, how am I going to make money? In the end, there's also a couple of episodes about it in the beginning, about monetization and business models. But the idea for me was to create the affiliate links and to create an eco store, a store where I would showcase products that, ecological and sustainable products that people could buy. And this for me aligns totally with the mission. My mission is to make sustainability accessible to everyone, and having products that are accessible, that if you want to buy something that uses less plastic, you can quickly go to the store and buy it. It makes total sense for me. So from the start, I'm also validating the business model and seeing if people are actually clicking. That's actually one of the main metrics I focused at first. Also, if you go back to the episodes, you'll see that I was focusing and trying, and how I tried to improve this. And now I can see there's a lot of people actually using the store and clicking on the product. So I validated that, and now I'm focusing on organic growth. And hopefully once I nail this, once I have the retention perfect and I have the perfect product, the app will just boom and start having more and more users, and I will finally be able to make some money, because so far I've only made like $50 or something with all these affiliate, even less. So these are basically the lessons that I've learned. And well, actually, there's one more. This one I've learned from these interviews, which is when you are starting your idea, there's ideas that in the beginning they seem amazing, but then after a month or so, you don't like them so much. So it's very, very important to do something that you're truly passionate about, because building a product, it's super hard. It's probably one of the hardest things in life, because there's so many lows. The imposter syndrome always kicks in. You think that your product is not good enough. You have to work so much. You always think that you are not doing enough. So it's really, really hard. So if you are not doing something you're truly passionate about, you will easily quit and drop in the towel and say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And a lot of the people I interviewed in this podcast, they are truly passionate about what they're doing. And even when I interviewed Christy, said like, there's no plan B. The plan B for me is to just do it again. And I really believe that if you want to do something that you're passionate about. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really hard. If you want to find what you're passionate about, there's an episode I did. It's called "Find Your Inner Why." Also, in one of the first ones, and there I kind of I came up with my own way to immediately look at an idea and see if I would along the way be interested and motivated to work on it. And this might be also useful for you. Yeah, and this was my guide. I hope this was interesting. I know that I'm always reevaluating and learning and adapting this guide. And if you have also ideas of things that I've missed, please share it with me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is WBE Podcast. And I also know that, and I've spoken about this with a lot of people, that it's super important to have a mentor. And especially if you are starting in as an entrepreneur or something that you are, you don't have a network, having a mentor is crucial, because they will guide you, they will give you motivation. You can learn a lot from them. And that's also what I'm trying to do with this community, so that I can have a lot of mentors and we can help each other. And I've been creating a Slack channel with most of the people I interviewed are there. So you have entrepreneurs from all backgrounds that are doing. Some people are designers, some people are developers, some people are product managers. Everyone is there, and you can actually use this Slack channel to make questions and find your mentors. And for you to have access to this Slack channel, you can support this podcast and become a member. You pay €4 per month, and you have access to the Slack channel. You have access to some also prime content that I only share with members that support this podcast. And of course, you are supporting the podcast, because I don't do ads, and the only way I want to grow this podcast is with the support of the listeners. So the link will be in the description. You can just join and find your mentors in the Slack channel group of Wannabe Entrepreneur. I'm waiting for you there, so really consider joining it. It's just €4 per month, and I think you can take a lot from that. This was another Wannabe Entrepreneur. See you tomorrow.